Hello, you guys. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the I World. I'm so sorry that we missed last week and that I was going to say vacant.
It
That's
was,
not the right word, right?
yeah,
Vacant.
vacant the week
I
before.
was missing in action the week before. But we're
Where were
back.
you?
I don't know.
I think you were just not feeling it, maybe.
Really? That's crazy.
Remember, you were like, I think you like it.
Oh,
Maybe there was a lot going on.
maybe. Way to throw me under the bus.
Well, we hope that you guys had a great Christmas, a happy holiday, and we know this time of year can be kind of like overwhelming sometimes when you think about new year, new you, all that jazz. Maybe for some of you guys, it's like a great starting point because you like having the fresh slate of a new year. Maybe for some of you, you're like, this is so overwhelming. How do I know if I'm doing what I need to do to goal set and everything? So, we're here to give you our guide on how to start 2025 off.
A hot girl's guide to 2025.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
I
title.
actually, okay. I love it. And I feel like we have gotten pretty good at like manifesting and goal setting when it comes like in general, but especially like 2024 was a good year for us. I feel both of us.
We actually achieved a lot.
We did. What were some of the things we achieved?
We
Let's do a little reflecting.
We started a new business.
Mhm.
One and under the umbrella, the
Yes.
other.
A new company.
A whole new chapter. I mean, we basically started something completely new that we've never done before.
We went legit.
Yeah. Like we have like an LLC and everything.
Yes, this isn't just a little side hustle.
Yes.
This is like
official real business.
So we started that.
Yes.
We brought back the pod, which really we started it at the end of 2023. So in a way, like this past year, 2024, yeah, we like had our photo shoot. We did our like we really I think us Nearman sisters are the definition of like we want to do something, we're gonna do it. We're gonna find a way to do it, even if we don't know how. Even with like producing.
That's what it is. That's the definition. Is like that's the definition of this year was like we don't know what we're gonna do, but we're just gonna start. And that was with everything we did. We didn't know. We weren't like experienced. We didn't like do our research and like had a plan. We just like jumped into it and then the rest figured out itself.
Yes. So even with this like podcast, like even learning how to produce the podcast, it was one of the most like confusing things to do. And same thing with starting a business. It's like, okay, I kind of have the idea, I have the concept, but like how do I actually take it all the way? So if you have a goal or something in mind that you're like, I know I want to do this thing, I know I want to have my own business or I want to have my own brand, but I just don't know how to take that thought and make it action, we are going to help you step into the most aligned version of yourself that's actually going to help you achieve these things and how to effectively kind of take that vision board that you might make for January 1st and use it throughout the year, and actually more on the vision boarding and maybe making like monthly ones later. But any other like little reflections we want to take for 2024? I want to say that I really love that we have taken this podcast to YouTube. So you guys have like a video because I like to watch podcasts on video. When we first started, I was using a platform called Libsyn to like distribute. And I feel like I now love how this is distributed like through Spotify and YouTube. It's just better. And that's another thing too. Like you can actually, for anybody who wants to start their own podcast, because I know there are a lot of people who probably have thought of it and want to do it. Like I thought you had to like invest money into producing a podcast, and I did, and you actually don't. So we can like teach you how to do this on a different episode, or like maybe on our YouTube channel or mine.
Britt started a YouTube channel.
Yeah, started a YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's a big new for you.
It's really crazy because I actually would love to like go find at some point, maybe before we leave we can clip it into the end of the episode, but like my manifestations that like I've written down, and for the longest time we have wanted to be like, without sounding cheesy, like be our own bosses or like be in control of our careers, and now we are. And I feel like it's something that we have like really wanted to manifest for so long, but there were roadblocks. And I truly think that, and what we're going to talk about, I think this is a good segue to start the episode off, is that like if you want it, it's part of a bigger plan. Some may say God's plan. And if it's part of the plan, like once you become the most aligned version of yourself, which basically means aligning with the version of yourself that who you are in that reality you want to live. Yes.
I just had like a thought that was
Mhm.
like kind of crazy.
What?
Wait, hold on. I have to find her. She's floating. Okay. You know how people, how we say like you have to live your life like the person that you want to become,
Yes.
right? Like that's how you're going to step into like that Brittany 2.0 or Talia 2.0 is like living your life like that person,
Mhm.
but also aligning with the version of yourself that you are now because like there's a version of you that like prayed for the version of yourself that you are now. Do you get what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
It's like kind of crazy because it's like that's contradicting.
I think it actually brings me to a great quote
Okay.
that Matthew McConaughey said, which is basically that like you are always chasing this version of yourself that like go to YouTube.
My hero. That's who I chase. Now, when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life come to me and say, "Who's your hero?" And I said, "I don't know. I got to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks." I come back 2 weeks later. This person comes up and says, "Who's your hero?" I said, "I thought about it. You know who it is?" I said, "It's me in 10 years." So I turned 25 10 years later. That same person comes to me and goes, "So are you a hero?" And I was like, "Not even close." No, no, no. She said, "Why?" I said, "Because my hero is me at 35." So you see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero's always 10 years away. I'm never going to be my hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing.
The point of life is to keep evolving, keep growing, and keep finding that more self-actualized version of yourself. So,
Wait, I kind of love Matthew McConaughey now. I never really knew him
mhm,
like that.
well, now you know him. All right, so let's get into the thick of it. I was listening to a little mindset, little Wayne Dyer, Lao Tzu. Actually, this is Lao Tzu, but Wayne Dyer talks about it. And
Lao Tzu is like the guy we learned about in social studies.
I don't know, maybe. The whole point is basically that there is a plan in place for you, whether it's God's plan, you think the universe, whatever it is, your purpose, it's there. And the point of life, I think, is to is to align with that idealized version of yourself. And I think that we find signs of who that's supposed to be in the form of like your gut and like if something instinctually feels right or feels wrong. So like if you always when you're in, a certain environment or around certain people, you always feel wrong. And if with certain people it recharges you and you feel right and you're excited and you're like inspired, I think that is like our intuition is our guide for the path we're supposed to take because of course like there's many paths people can take and some people never align with the version of themselves that they're supposed to be.
That's so sad.
It is sad, and that's why listening to podcasts like this one, so if you know somebody in your life who maybe is kind of off their path but could use a little help, maybe send them this podcast. And if someone sent you this episode, don't take it as like a sign of like an insult, but look at it more as this, somebody cares about you and thinks that you could be something so amazing and they see that potential in you and they just want to help you get on that path. Or maybe they want to do it together. Maybe they're like, you know what, I really need to get on this path to being a better self. You're my accountability buddy, you're the person I want to see succeed most in life, let's do this together. So
Actually, the opposite of an insult.
it is the opposite of an insult. If somebody actually sends this to you, it means that they love you and they care about you. And here's your sign to send this episode to somebody because we're really going to nurture your mind and just help you start 2025 off on the right path. And as somebody who constantly had the same New Year's resolutions and always kind of just fell short of them year after year, 2024 was truly the year that I truly lived out all of the dreams that I wanted. I lost, 2023 and 2024, they've both been huge years of growth for me mentally, spiritually, physically. Like I have lost the weight that I've put on my New Year's resolution every single year. I started the business that was something I always wanted to do is be in charge of my career, all of those kinds of things. So you can truly feel good knowing you're taking advice and learning from people who are walking the walk. We're doing the do. We're not just telling you what we think. We know how to take your dream and turn it into a reality. And it all starts with your mind and your intention.
And I think it's good to have a New Year's resolution that doesn't have to do with your physical appearance because I think pretty much everyone probably has that on their like New Year's resolution is something and that just has like a lot of pressure to it. So like something that's for your mind not just your body, like, right? Like mind, body, soul, maybe something that's for your mind and your soul that you could add on to your New Year's resolution list.
If the most aligned ideal version of yourself is somebody who is fit and active and lost 30
That's
pounds this
fine.
year, but if that's who it is, the way you get there is from starting with your mindset. It's from having good routines. It's from adding in new habits that you're lacking. It's not, having a goal of I need to lose 30 pounds. It's not just something that you can snap your fingers and do. It's something that requires intention. In order to have good intentions, it's about having routine. So we're going to talk about this in length. Number one, on how to manifest your dream life in 2025 is to figure out what is your dream life. And when you think about your dream life, think about your day to day. Close your eyes and just visualize. What are you doing? What time is it when you wake up in the morning? Is the sun rising? Is the sun already up? What are you doing first thing in the morning? Are you going to take a workout class? Are you going downstairs and cooking breakfast for your family? Really visualize what is the perfect day in your life.
I'm there.
And what are you doing? What's part of your routine? Are you sitting down and doing your skincare? Chances are your ideal version of yourself probably isn't waking up at the alarm clock, rushing to get ready, throwing on, sweatpants and a sweatshirt and rushing out the door miserable, right? That's probably not the ideal version of you. The ideal version of you might have a slow morning, might have plenty of time in the morning to devote to themselves. Whatever it is, you can picture it right now. And that is what we're going to plant on our vision board. Now, I actually have a whole YouTube episode on my channel, really plugging my channel on this episode, but I have a whole video on how I created my vision board. And I actually am recommending vision boarding month to month because I think setting goals should be incremental.
What if we do our short-term vision boards and a long-term vision board?
Yeah, I think that's good. But the one thing that I will say with goal setting is that if you give yourself a year to accomplish a goal, it may take you a year to accomplish that goal. But if you give yourself a month, you're kind of cutting down the time. So for example, let's just talk about productivity for a second. If you're trying to be like productive in terms of like tidying up your space. If you're like, oh my God, it's so messy. I'm hosting Thanksgiving. It's November 1st. I really have to clean up. Chances are Thanksgiving morning, you're still going to be cleaning your house. But because you gave yourself the whole month, but instead, if you were like, you know what, I'm going to set an alarm for 30 minutes today. And for 30 minutes, I'm putting my phone down, I'm popping on a song, and I'm just tidying up. And that's all I'm doing for 30 minutes. And I'm not cleaning the whole house and not whatever. I'm just saying for this 30 minutes, I'm going to be sitting in this room, tidying this room. And you kind of create these short-term goals that are a little bit more achievable. Another thing that's really good for like your 2025 manifestations is the 5-minute journal, which we were talking about.
I've really been loving it. Is the 5-minute journal different than the gratitude journal?
Like the prompts are a little different. I think the gratitude journal is like the fake version of the 5-minute journal, but it's like,
knockoff?
it's essentially the same thing.
Well, I had the 5-minute journal, but this one's different. And I used to overthink it too. I used to overthink each one to do. So I've just been doing it every day and having fun with each thing I get to say. Being creative with it, not just like what should I be grateful for? Really the little things.
Yeah.
And also tying into what you said about vision boards, I've never made a vision board before.
Really?
Never once in my life.
Well, you should.
I'm going to.
Well, with your 5-minute journal, so put on your list, number one, go on Amazon and look up the 5-minute journal or the gratitude journal. They look similar. And
They look identical.
it's a prompted journal to basically guide you. And it's a very easy way to journal. So if you're somebody who you're like, I don't even know what to write in a journal, or maybe you're not great with gratitude and like feeling grateful for your day, if you're someone who's constantly complaining or not being productive, what the 5-minute journal does is it guides you. It starts every day with a quote. And it guides you. It starts off with like, what are you grateful, something you're grateful for today? 3 things that would be great, like if you did them today, basically. When you're writing down 3 things for today, you should put things that like you could accomplish, not something that's like, like, so, oh my God, I need to work out for 90 minutes if you know you can't do that today. Maybe it's going for a walk instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym if you know you're not going to be able to go to the gym. So, just achievable goals that you know you can accomplish, because when you are able to check things off of your to do list, it gives your like brain that little signal of like, okay, I'm accomplishing something. And those daily goals turn into your monthly goals, which turn into your yearly accomplishment. Right now, maybe like if you're sitting at home, pause the podcast for a second and write down some of your goals for the month of January. Okay. Don't think about the whole year. Think about what is my New Year's resolution. And we're just going to put it for January. So if you're thinking like, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds this year, maybe say my goal is to lose 5 pounds in January. It's just so much more achievable. It's these like little bite-sized things. What you're going to put on your vision board is not the scale at the weight that you want it to be. What you're going to do is you're going to put on your vision board
The ingredients that it takes to get there.
exactly
Mhm.
the foods you're going to eat, the habits you're going to have. Maybe you need to drink more water.
And
So,
habit stacking is one of the best things I feel like you could possibly do.
do you want to explain habit stacking for those who don't know what it is?
Yeah, habit stacking. I don't know who I heard it from.
Shelby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Habit stacking is basically like I know that I'm going to drink my coffee in the morning, right? So I do it every single morning. So maybe while my espresso is brewing, I'm going to stack another habit onto something I already know I'm going to do. So while my espresso is brewing, I'm going to write in my 5 minute journal. So I'm stacking that habit onto the other one to kind of like assist it to make it something that will become part of my routine. You know what I mean? So if I know I'm going to get up and brush my teeth, maybe while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to listen to 5 minutes of 5 minutes. That's kind of crazy long to brush your teeth, but however many minutes of a podcast while I'm brushing my teeth, a mindset podcast to set me off on the right foot. So it's like stacking a new habit onto something that you already know you do. That's not even like a negotiable thing. Like I know I'm brushing my teeth, obviously, or I know I'm making my coffee, obviously, or whatever. It kind of just helps you introduce new habits into your life, and then those habits become just like brushing your teeth, just like making your coffee. I started doing that with like tongue scraping and ice rolling my face, and it's really fun when you can like romanticize the habits, adding them in. So finding like things that are fun and make you feel luxurious in your routine, investing into those little parts of your routine.
It's also a great like tool to use if you are looking to like add in something into your routine you don't really want to do. So, for example, if there's something you love, like every week, one of the podcasts I love to listen to is the BFFs podcast, but it's like a drama gossip podcast. It's not like something that's feeding my mind. So, if let's say I know on Thursdays I want to listen to BFFs, I know I want to, but I'm only going to get to listen to it if I go to the gym and walk on the treadmill for the 40 minutes episode is. That's another way that you can kind of add in like, oh, well, I know I want to do this. So if I'm going to listen to this, I always listen to this when I'm at the gym. And then it just kind of creates it into your routine, and it makes you like also not hate doing the thing you don't want to do so much. So I think that's another like way that you can kind of add in some New Year's resolutions, and also making something that you don't really like to do enjoyable, because if you're actually just like walking on the treadmill and listening to something you like, it's going to be more enjoyable than sitting on there and being like, oh my God, how much longer do I have to be on there? So that's
Yeah.
another way that you can use it as a tool.
And I also think like finding out the kind of person you are and maybe like the way that you learn or the way that you best do whatever. Because not everybody is going to be able to do things the same, obviously. So, like for me, like I do not like going to the gym and lifting weights. I never have. It makes me the thought of like, what should I do? And like, am I doing this right? And do I have the right form? Like almost scares me into not wanting to do it at all. So then I just don't. And now how many years have I gone just not doing it because I like build it up into something it doesn't need to be in my head. So instead of doing that, because I know that I'm not going to do it, but I have been going to strength classes where there's a coach and there's someone to run you through it, help me with my form. There's like that group setting. I just am somebody like, to be honest with myself, I just do better in group settings because I feel like that push from other people around me. Whereas if I'm alone, I'll like, or like if Al's just running me through the workout, I just will be like a little lazier. What is a way that you could still get to the same end goal, but you might have to like modify it?
So, whatever your goal is, think of your goal or write down your goals. So, whatever your end goal is for the month of January, because we're just going to do January to start. And then from each of those goals, think about 3 things that will help you get to that goal. So, for example, if you want to make more money in January, let's say you're like, okay, I want to make, $5,000. Don't just put $5,000 in the bank account on your vision board. What are the things that will help you make 5,000 more dollars than you're not already doing? So maybe it's starting a side hustle, maybe it's going through your closet and putting stuff on Poshmark. What are the things that are going to actually help you get there?
It's really exactly what you were saying about like meeting yourself halfway.
Yeah, so you have to meet yourself halfway.
Go ahead, Brittany. Explain what you mean by that.
So, manifesting is not just about like saying, I want this. It's about like stepping into the person who is able to achieve those things. So, if I'm somebody who I'm saying to myself, like, oh, I'm 300 pounds and I want to be 200 pounds, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm just saying that, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just wanting it and dreaming it. And I'm just manifesting, oh, I wish I could lose 100 pounds. That would be so great. But I'm not doing anything different. I'm eating the same. I'm sitting on the couch every night. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm not making doctor's appointments. I'm not going to a workout class or doing anything. I'm not changing my diet. I'm not actually taking control and taking the steps that I need to in order to become that person. You can manifest being successful at whatever your goal is, but you have to actually start stepping into the version of yourself. Like, what is that person going to do when you achieve those goals? So if you want to run a business, you're not going to be able to run a business by just only working for someone else your whole life. You might not be able to quit your job and start a business, but you can start having a side hustle or start coming up with ideas, or sitting in your room and maybe creating designs for your clothing brands. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can find the time in the day to add it into your like current routine and schedule, but take those steps further towards the version of yourself that you want to be. And what will happen, like that kind of is what happens for me and Talia too. But like, I feel like for me, I've had such an extreme struggle with like disconnecting from my full-time job and like having my own career as like somebody on social media. And I've kind of been manifesting this for a long time, but I've never actually fully lived it. I'm still kind of on the journey right now because I'm just starting as a full-time like content creator. But this is something that I have been like wanting and dreaming for and manifesting for so long, but I haven't let go of the old version of myself, which we did talk about this on our last episode we did together, I believe, that you do have to kind of like let go and like let yourself die to become, be reborn.
Overall, what Brittany was saying about meeting yourself halfway is you can't just say that you're going to say that you want something without having your actions match what you're saying. So you can't, it's kind of like being like, I want to get 10,000 steps in, but then like not moving. You know what I mean? Like you have to meet yourself. So it's like, okay, you might want to get the steps in, but then maybe I have to go on a walk in the morning. So it's just like your actions have to match what you're manifesting in order to, and it doesn't have to, it could start there. So it doesn't have to meet exactly where it is, but it has to like start somewhere so that it can meet where you want to be.
What happens with manifesting, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of it, which we're just touching on it on this episode, but there is a whole episode you can go back in from past episodes on our Spotify or Apple podcast. It's not going to be on YouTube, about quantum leaping. And what that basically talks about is how like when you're manifesting and you're taking the steps and you're becoming the version of yourself that you have to be to achieve that goal or that dream, once you're going, it will happen like this. Like it'll be like slow, slow, slow. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, I feel like
blinked.
I literally feel in a way like that's kind of what just happened with me. And I feel like I can give you guys my personal, like, short version of the story, which is that I have always wanted to have my own business and be my own boss. From the moment I started working for my dad, I talked to him about what could I do that's mine? What are different ideas of what I could do that's mine? And I was always trying to kind of fit into the box of like his businesses and his career. But in reality, I just knew that I wanted to be the boss and I wanted to be in charge, not in like a way of like, I want to be in charge. I'm a life path 8. So like naturally you kind of like gravitate towards leadership roles. And I wanted to have something that I'm somebody who has the vision. Like not everybody has the vision. I think there's people who are more like management types who don't want to be in charge and they want to work for somebody else because they want to have their life outside of work and have that work life balance. But for us, I think that like, well, for me, just speak for myself. Like I want to love what I do so much that it's integrated into my life, that I don't feel like I need a break from it. Obviously, everybody needs a break, but and I think there is always a place for work-life balance when it comes to anything you're doing, but I wanted my life I didn't mind working harder, longer hours, doing more
Yeah.
in exchange for the freedom that comes with being in charge of your career. And I also am somebody that like I know I can be successful. Having that belief is obviously that's a whole topic in itself. But with me, like I 6 years ago started being like, okay, well, I know that I'm not really happy with where I am. I know that something has to change. I know that I can't leave my job right now. So let me start doing something to try to just find my purpose. And it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I want more money or I want this. Of course, I had things I wanted. I wanted to move out of my parents' house. I wanted to be able to afford to go on vacation. I wanted these things, but what did I have to do to become that person? I had to bring in another income source. So I started my network marketing journey. I started having my own business. I started posting on social media. And then little by little, I kind of like learned more of like, oh, there's other people doing this that are like really successful who like, oh, there's people who are like influencers who are like just making money online. And I started like kind of having that dream of like, I feel like I could do this. Like I like posting. I'm not scared to share my life. I know that I'm not the best right now, but I know I can get better. And I
Have
started
you
to
ever thought about like public speaking, like going somewhere and giving like a almost like a
like a talk,
seminar? Like a yeah,
like a Mel Robbins,
yeah.
maybe.
I feel like naturally just like sitting and observing, I feel like that's something you could do.
Thank
I'm being
you.
serious.
Thank you. Well, let's see if she manifests that for
I
me.
think she will. Like the way that you're able to like continue like my train of thought is like very like it's like start stop. Like I can't like I'm like, do you understand what I'm saying with everything? And Brittany's just like the train left the station and it's fucking going. Just interesting to see. Mine's like one that like you're it's like trying to turn your car on. And it's like
But that is kind of like what I to bring us back to the original thought of like we're all supposed to have a path. Like I was always meant to be kind of like a leader and like inspire a vision is kind of what what I'm talking about as I'm talking to you about my vision and like my vision for my life. So I started doing these things and as I started making money online, I'm like, okay, I can make money doing this. Well, I'm going to try to do this now. I'm going to try to post this. I'm going to try that. They want to send me stuff in exchange for a post. Sure, I'll do that. And then I'll just see where it goes. And I really like started doing started actually doing the living the life, being the person I wanted to be before I was there. I mean, even so, like in a sense, this is gonna sound like humble brag, not humble brag at all. I'm trying to help vision cast for you, like what success can look like. I still have been doing social media for 6 years. I have less than 10,000 followers. I'm inches away, but I have less than 10,000 followers on all of my platforms. And I have made hundreds of thousands of dollars using social media. So, like, just to show you guys that, like, you don't need to be like Emma Chamberlain to make money online. All of those, like doing those things and having that end goal manifesting of like every time I wrote a letter to myself or every time I made a vision board, it was that like I work for myself and I don't have, I control my day and I have time freedom and I have financial freedom. And this is something I was always manifesting and building it little by little by little. And then all of a sudden, our family store closes. We don't have our jobs anymore. And I'm like, okay, I low key a little
I'm
bit
not as scared.
manifested. I'm
Yeah.
not scared and I low key manifested this because that was something that I would have never walked away from. So God took it away from me because it was not supposed to be a part of my long-term plan of my life. So what's meant for you when you let go instead of trying to force something that doesn't feel right, you truly kind of step into the person that you truly want to be. And I'm only 29 years old. So the goals that I and dreams that I have right now may not be like what my goals and dreams are in 10 years from now. But
I
in
hope
a
not.
way, the things that like why so also thinking now, if your goal is you want to be a stay-at-home mom, like for me, I do want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I am now creating a life like how Talia was saying earlier, like you're kind of never exactly who you're supposed to be, like it's contradicting in a way. I'm doing stuff now to set me up for 10 years from now so that if my dream in 10 years from now is oh, I want to be able to be at every soccer game of my child's, I can because I don't have this 9 to 5 job anymore.
Yeah.
Because God's plan for me that He planted in my heart and in my brain by me letting go and letting God do His thing.
Oh no, we're at
We're
church.
preaching. But by doing that, I'm able to really align with who I'm supposed to be. And
Let me just add something really quick, which is a slight detour, is that you can still be ambitious and have all these goals for 2025 and be manifesting and meeting yourself halfway and checking all these things off your to-do list and right, it's a lot. You can still have all of those things and still practice balance and live a balanced life. And I think that is something that's very important to keep in the back of your head as somebody who I do feel am very ambitious and I have big goals for myself. And I remember like talking about it with my friend Madison and being like, oh, I'm just like, not where I want to be with like whatever it was. And she was just like, okay, you need to like have a little bit of grace with yourself. Like you're doing a lot. You're like self-employed. You have your own business that you just started. You're doing all these weddings. You train harder than anyone I know. You whatever like just because you didn't fucking break your back training today, like you need to like have a little bit of grace with yourself. So I was
like
talking.
what Al said the other day.
What did he say?
The other day we were talking about how like we have so many things, like so many different social media things we want to work on, and he was saying like when
Oh,
you work for yourself you are still working and you still need to give yourself a day off to
yeah.
just do nothing. And like if that's what you're feeling that day and you just like need to take a break from
But
it,
might not be what you're feeling. You might feel like you can keep going. So you need to schedule in that day and you
that
need to
rest
schedule
day.
in that like rest and recover time for yourself so that you can keep running cuz you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to like you can again be ambitious, you can love your job, you can, be wanting to manifest all these things for yourself, but if you don't take that time to like live a balanced life, recover, rest, recharge, all that stuff, you're gonna burn out. Um, Burnout sucks.
And that's why doing a January vision board to me is something that's a little bit more realistic for people instead of just doing a whole 2025 vision board. So if you maybe want to start with creating like what are my 2025 goals and then breaking them into incremental like monthly goals, I think that's a great place to start.
And it's also a great way to not be like, these are my goals for 2025, and then never look back at your goals and like you don't even know if you actually achieved anything. Because like I don't think that I ever like revisit any like New Year's resolution. I don't think I've ever.
Look up, there's a stat that's like
I
how
don't
many
even.
people actually do their New Year's resolution.
According to most research, only 9% of people who make New Year's resolutions actually achieve them, meaning the success rate for New Year's resolutions is quite low.
So
Yeah,
that's why
it
we're
says
doing it different.
low success rate, um, early drop off. A significant portion of people abandon their resolutions within the first week, with many more quitting by the end of January. And common resolutions, popular resolutions include exercising more, losing weight, saving money, eating healthier, and learning a new skill. So that's what I mean. Like there has to be some like that's just those are all such heavy things. I feel like there needs to be like, oh, oh my God. Okay. It was called like Kevin's rule or something. I saw it was like literally some random fucking dude on TikTok. And he was like, this is Kevin's rule. Kevin's rule is that once a month, you have to make it a point to do something that you normally wouldn't do. Just once a month. It could be anything. It could be like going to Plaster Fun Craft. Is that even a thing anymore? And going and painting something. I would never do that, but that's something fun. Or whatever it is, meeting up with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, once a month making it. So it's kind of like the monthly vision boards. It's like that you're gonna do it monthly, so you're more likely to revisit it than big picture.
So, tangible things that you can actually do to set yourself up for success with manifesting in 2025 with your vision board is finding your goals. For each goal, write 3 things that are actual habits that you can implement into your schedule to actually achieve those things. I'll pop up a picture of like what my vision board looks like for January. And if you want to see how I made this, you can go over to my page and I have a whole tutorial on it. But it's a lot of like habit things on here. Like you'll see like things that visually appeal to me. So for like obviously it looks aesthetic, but that is how like my brain functions. It doesn't really matter if that's like everybody's different, but something that's going to motivate you. When I look at this screen, this is going to make me want to get up and do yoga. It's going to make me want to get up and have like a green drink. It's going to make me want to do the things that, are the better habits instead of like rolling downstairs, eating a
Rolling?
bagel, eating a bagel, sitting on the couch. Those
I
are,
know I talked about this, but I feel like my version of like having that motivation is Sydney Adams, which I've talked about already on the podcast. It's like she is my vision board. Like she is something that I'm consuming that gives me motivation on a regular basis. Whereas
Love
like
that.
I don't know if I looked at something if it would give me that same feeling. Like I feel like if something I'm not saying that I shouldn't create a vision board because I should. But there's different ways of consuming that that motivation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Second thing that you can do is write a letter to the future version of yourself as if you accomplished everything that you wanted to. This is something that is commonly done on like the 88 Lionsgate portal or like certain portals, but like you can do it whenever you want to yourself. So if you, for example, are going to do it for the month of January, and on January 1st, you're going to sit down, you're going to write down, Dear Brittany, it's February 1st. I am so proud of everything that we did in January. We finally started going to yoga 3 times a week. You look so great in all of your new stuff that was part of your goal, that once you started going to yoga 3 times a week, you were going to get new yoga outfits. Loving the new yoga outfits. Like talking to yourself as if those things happened already. As you're writing it, you're going to get that feeling of like, okay, this is reality. And then on February 1st, you can open it up and see, okay, how many of these things did I actually do? And also, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, not everything is like, it's a marathon. Not everything is just like a sprint. So sometimes manifesting doesn't happen like this. The way to manifest best is to become the most aligned version of yourself. That's how you'll manifest more successfully. But if you're just starting on your journey, you might not manifest everything that you want to manifest right away. But as long as you're getting 1% better at least, that's better than not doing it at all. I talked about this on the last week's episode where I was talking about my weight loss journey. And I used to use these apps that I would put in my goal. Let's say my I wanted to lose, 80 pounds. And I would look at it and it would say, okay, well, to lose 80 pounds, here is the plan, and it's going to take you 18 months. And I would look at that and be like, 18 months? That's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. And then I just wouldn't do it at all. And that makes no sense at all. But sometimes having that long term goal is so difficult. So having the short term goal and just even getting there, even if my goal was to lose 80 pounds and I lost 5, that still brings me closer to my goal than I was at the start of the month.
It
So
literally is the same exact thing as putting things on your list about balance. It all comes back to like your mind needs to feel like these things are actually attainable and achievable in order to like want to even do it.
And I think having that kind of ritual on the first of every month of like sitting down, making the vision board, writing the letter to yourself, it's just the thing that's going to keep you on track throughout the entire year
And
instead of just looking back on, the end of December and being like, ugh, remember when I said I wanted to do this January 1st and look, I didn't even do it.
and to ensure that you're like investing time into like self development and improvement, which is something that I listened to a podcast called Morning Ray. And it's something that she was talking about. I don't remember exactly what she was saying, something along the lines of like, um, that you need to be doing your like self improvement work regularly. So, like, you need to be doing something that's going to benefit you in that way. So,
Yeah.
listening to her, like, she like loves Mel Robbins. I've tried listening to Mel Robbins. I'd rather I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to be rude, but I just feel like I like her repeating what Mel Robbins says better than
Yeah.
listening to Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so just like making sure that you are doing that like self-improvement work regularly.
And if you've tried and you relate to how Talia just said, where she's like, I don't really like listening to this person, you just haven't found your person yet.
Yeah.
They're out there. The
Yeah.
person that you are going to be like that's a little bit how I feel about listening to Wayne Dyer, because when I listen to him, just his cadence of how he delivers things, it reminds me of like listening to my dad talk. And I think it's because my dad would listen to him and probably repeated a lot of like how he delivered things and how he made jokes. And it's just that wisdom that like I like listening to it but from him. And sometimes I need that kind of like paternal voice.
Mhm.
And then sometimes I want to like chit chat with the girls and like listen to a young creator and have, definitely finding the people that you are going to connect with.
Yeah, and that's where it literally comes back to like being like knowing the learning style of yourself. Like for instance, like I learn best from Al as a coach. Two people could be explaining the same thing when somebody else is saying it. It literally goes in one fucking ear and out the other, and I did not register anything you just said. And he can teach the exact same thing, but the way his voice goes up and down, and it like registers with me. So again, if you feel like you're just like, okay, yeah, but whatever,
If you're like, I hate personal development, I've tried listening to podcasts. I
Yeah.
mean, you're listening to this one, so there's
Yeah.
probably you probably like at least us if you're still listening in this episode. But
Yeah.
like finding that kind of thing, and if you know someone who's like, oh, I've tried listening to things, but I just don't like it, they probably just haven't found the right person for them, the right guiding voice.
Yes.
So if you're actually struggling with like, what goals should I have for myself and how will I actually achieve them? I want you to think about this question. If you could do anything without fear of the what ifs or judgment, what would you be doing? We kind of talked about this earlier with
If that didn't open up your eyes, I don't know what will. Let's just say that. Because that's so true. I feel like most of the things that keep people back are judgment from others and failing.
So I actually was listening to Wayne Dyer, and he was talking about how to become the most how to move into the state of intention. And there's 4 things that you have to do to be able to move into the state of intention, doing things intentionally to become this most self-actualized version of yourself. 1, you cannot put your thoughts on what's missing. So you can't always be like, oh, that's not going to work because this. Can't always put your thoughts on what's missing. 2, you can't constantly be thinking about the circumstances of your life, like the negative things that are holding you back. 3, you can't always focus on what has always been. And 4 is you can't focus on what others want for you. So when you start to,
Brittany, read that one again to yourself.
I know, it was eye-opening
Yeah,
listening
Brittany's
to it.
addicted to that.
Kind of like hone in on each of these. 1 is if you want to focus on what's always missing, put your energy into that. It will keep being that way. If you always put your thoughts onto what is, you'll continue to attract what is. If you take it off of what is and you put it onto what you want to manifest, that is what's going to happen. So if you're constantly thinking about like, this is the reality, that's why they say being Delulu is the Salulu. If you're always thinking about like what the reality of why you can't achieve these goals or you can't start to live this kind of dream that you're manifesting for yourself, you'll never actually do it. If you're somebody where like you're like, I know I really want that, but like I can't. I work 5 days a week. That is what's going to continue to be. Versus if you actually focus on your dream, that is what will manifest for you. So his example of this is, let's say on Sunday you have a little sniffle. And then
I
you're
remember
like,
this one.
ugh, I have a sniffle. If I have a sniffle today, it's going to be in my throat tomorrow. Then I'm going to have a head cold on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I'm going to be all congested. And then I'm going to call out of work on Friday because I'm going to have a fever. If that's what you're thinking about, that's literally what will happen. And actually, when I did learn, like I've listened to this in the past, and this was such a game changer for me in terms of being sick because I always used to think like this because this is how we are taught to think. And this is how most people think. So you kind of absorb like what you hear from other people and then you start to like kind of live that way. And once I like listened to this, I'm like, oh my God, I do that. Like I need to stop doing that. And that goes for anything in your life. If you're like, I would love to start a business, but what am I going to do? I have to work and I can't call out of work because that's kind of like what happened to us with our business starting doing the weddings. It was like, well, what are we going to do? When we started this business, we didn't know that at the end of the year, we weren't going to have our jobs anymore. So we were just like, we're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. And we did. And then look at us now. Now we have a business
have
that we
to have
built
that.
over the year that when we didn't have our 9 to 5 anymore, now we have a business that we already had been building.
Yeah, you have to have that like figure it out mentality because you're never going to have it all figured out. You got to figure it out as you go.
So something that you can kind of take away from this, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And your mind's created every problem that you do have in your life. self-actualizing people never put their thoughts on what is if they don't like what is. So if you look at people who are like poor, like bad with money, people who are always sick, people who are unsuccessful, people who are always tired, people who have addictions, people who always put their attention on what is wrong and what they can't do, when you focus on what's wrong, you attract more of what is. So that is why he says that if you are always focused on what is, you're going to attract more of what is. If you do what you've always been doing, you're going to continue to be that way. You have to stop. Like, that's why before when Talia was saying you have to like kind of meet yourself halfway, that is how you kind of step into that version of yourself that's living the life that you actually want to live. So number 3, so number 1 is, what is your actual dream life? 2, if you could do anything without the fear or the judgment, what would you do? And number 3 is doing the mental work to align with this version of you. Part 1 of this is let go, let God, which we kind of talked about in the beginning of this podcast. And part 2 of this is a little story that I guess we can kind of wrap up the podcast episode with. It's really good. So tap in here. This is actually a story that Mother Teresa lived by.
Mother Teresa.
Yep. Okay, actually, I'm going to preface this by saying this is the energy of an aligned person. So if the whole time you're listening, you're like, what is this aligned thing she's talking about? Listen up. This is what we're emulating. If by the end of this, you're like, fuck that, no, I'm sorry to say, don't know if you're on the right podcast.
Oh,
because
shit.
this is what we are emulating. Us, iWorld community
Okay.
are emulating
I don't even know what she's gonna say
for
either, guys.
2025. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone may destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you have anyway. In the final analysis, it was always between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway.
Okay. I have something to share.
Share.
You know how a couple of episodes ago in the jujitsu episode, I was like, I have this internal pull and push battle that's like, be who like
Mhm.
kind, and then this person that's like they don't deserve that.
Yes.
So that was what I needed to hear, is that I really need to just
Be you.
be me and don't let anyone else or any circumstances shift or alter
who you are.
who I am to my core.
And I think that as humans, we all have that blockage. And that blockage is what's stopping us from our most happy, aligned, purposeful, detached in the best way self. I have it too.
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast with people taking advantage of our dad and blah, blah, blah.
I don't know.
Well, basically, me and Brittany, whether we had this conversation on the podcast or off of it, it was basically me being like, it's like really sad to hear like all these times that like our dad was just like taken advantage of, and like, you know, people would steal from him or lie to him or whatever. And like how like that's just like so fucked. And Brittany was like, that he kind of lived by like this mantra, and like it didn't really like
It didn't affect him.
not that it didn't affect him, it probably did to a certain extent, but it didn't take over his life, and it didn't make him put up this barrier and like let it change who he is, and said like, oh, someone's gonna steal from me, then I'm never gonna be like a giving person anymore. So it's like not letting circumstances shift who you really are, even if you get burned a little here and there. So
And what is this podcast if not the
iWorld.
iWorld and how to become the most
I
Ira Neerman-esque
oh,
vibe?
No.
No, but that like really, I actually thought of the same thing when we talked about this. And you know, I'm going to say this publicly on the podcast, which is that there's some people who have really gotten under my skin,
Mhm.
who have really,
Almost into her bloodstream. That's how underneath the skin.
and
It's not just like a superficial cut. It's like a wound.
It is a wound. And it brings out the lowest version of myself, this person of who acts out of fear and anger and anxiety and stress, and it brings me to a place that it's like this is not who I'm meant to be.
Her lowest vibrational self.
And I've said on the podcast in the past, like, I really want to emulate like that Iron Earman energy of like, if someone treats me a certain way, it just rolls off my back and it doesn't bother me. And this is what I'm going to think about is that, you be the person that you want to be for you. And it doesn't mean that you can forgive people, but still have the boundary. You can, be who you're going to be, but learn from it, but still emulate the highest version of yourself. And I think in a sense, like something that Wayne Dyer talks about is how um it's actually like in the first part of my notes, I think. I don't even know if I wrote it down, but he talks about a lot about just like letting go and like you're not doing anything, you're being done, which is basically that like God has this plan and this is the path you're on. And he talks about being a parent. And I actually found it really interesting because like I'm at the point in my life where I'm thinking about having kids. And it really made me think about like um he was saying how like you don't have kids for you. Like kids come through you, but you're not supposed to have kids for them to fulfill a part of you, of like who you're supposed to be. And that really made me think because I'm like, oh, I like want to be a mom so bad. I want to have a kid for me. I want to have whatever. But it's not about that. It's about maybe connecting with people who are your child, but they come through you. And he was saying how, like, with parenting and in a sense, it's like very similar to the Mel Robbins theory of like, let them. And
Maybe people don't know what that is, explain it.
I think I'm not like an expert on it, but it's basically like if somebody's going to do something, like let them. Just let them. Like you can't control. It really is the same kind of theory. It's like you can't control anything and you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just live the aligned version of yourself and your path and what's meant for you. And you like if you're somebody who like you're always getting involved and you're always trying to fix things and you're always this, like that's not what life is supposed to be. You can't like control everything. So you're supposed to like kind of let go of that control
Okay.
and just realize that things are like just supposed to be what they're supposed to be. So he talks about like with kids, like if you see your child struggling, like in a way, like let them because there's a time for everything and you're supposed to struggle through things. You can't always save everybody. You can't always whatever. Like people have to go. I wrote down exactly what it said. He says, this is the Lao Tzu. I feel like I might have said this.
No, you didn't. You said Lao Tzu, but you didn't say there's a time for
Are you sure?
99%. Well, while Brittany decides if that's what she said, our dad gave me, and I'm pretty sure this is the poem. I think he gave it to you too. Did he give you a printout of a poem that said like letting go or let go or
I have a picture of it.
do you?
I think
Okay,
so.
well let me know if this is what it is. But so
If I
this
see it,
falls
I could.
this falls it doesn't look like it usually
Oh.
does, but I'm pretty sure it's the same exact words. I went through an era which was a rough time for me mentally, and to try to combat this negativity that was around me that I couldn't escape, I like had a bunch of quotes like taped up to my wall of like positive stuff. And this was one of the things that was hanging. So it says, to let go doesn't mean to stop caring. It means I can't do it for someone else. To let go is not to cut myself off. It's the realization that I can't control another. To let go is not to enable, but to allow learning from natural consequences. To let go is to admit powerlessness, which means the outcome is not in my hands. To let go is not to try and change or blame another. I can only change myself. To let go is not to care for, but to care about. To let go is not to fix, but to be supportive. To let go is not to judge, but to allow another to be a human being. To let go is not to be in the middle arranging all of the outcomes, but to allow others to affect their own outcomes, which is what you were just saying. To let go is not to be protective, it is to permit another to face reality. To let go is not to deny, but to accept. To let go is not to nag, scold, or argue, but to search out my own shortcomings and correct them. To let go is not to adjust everything to my desires, but to take each day as it comes and cherish the moment. To let go is not to criticize and regulate anyone, but to try to become what I dream I can be. To let go is not to regret the past, but to grow and live for the future. To let go is to fear less and love more. I'm pretty sure that was the same. Do you think it was?
That's not what I had.
Oh, really?
Like, I think it was just like a completely different thing I had. But maybe that's what you had. But I like that.
I am now curious if it was the same thing I had, but I do like that. I think it aligns with everything that we pretty much said. All in all, like I said, while we're ambitious and we're going to be manifesting and the new year comes with a lot of excitement with big goals, you have big expectations for yourself. So like we've been saying over this podcast as well, you know, doesn't have to be the big goal. It could be a quarter of that goal, which is something that you can meet and is way more achievable. And
Also know that like the goal setting aspect and the manifesting aspect are kind of the is the balance. So the goal setting is the intention and the manifesting is the letting God do his thing. That's the meeting yourself halfway, having both of those. So manifesting and goal setting have to go hand in hand in order for you to have the most successful month. And don't be so hard on yourself if you didn't achieve your goals in 2024 because using January 1st as a reset, like there's a lot of stuff circulating saying like New Year's resolutions aren't real and blah, blah, blah. You can set resolutions for yourself at any point in time. Using the month is just a good way for you to kind of like give yourself that end goal time to achieve things in a shorter time span instead of just saying like one day I'd love to do this. So
well, like I always told myself and I always promised myself that like if I had more time to train, if I had more time to like do all this stuff, then I would be able to compete more and I would be able to, just evolve as a grappler. And I I've been holding myself accountable because as soon as we didn't have this like schedule of work like clocking in and stuff tying us down, I have gone to all of the lift classes. If I missed a lift class, I still got the lift in and had Al run me through it, and I've been keeping the promises to myself that I said that I was going to. So it almost feels like it wasn't an excuse because it really was something that was keeping me from being able to use my time more wisely. So
it's literally that marriage between the goal setting
yeah.
and the manifesting. It's like you're telling God, like, if I have this, I'll do this. And you're meeting each other in the middle.
Yeah, and I
So-
did. It's not like I just said I was going to. If I did, like, I didn't wait, even though it could have been like when everything ended, it could have been like I could just wait for the new year to start and I could just like kind of vibe out for the rest of the season. I was like, no, like I'm going to start with these habits now. So whenever you want the marker to be, it can be. But obviously, new year, new you is like
It's a
been
great
thing for the longest time.
and it's a great time to just use it as a reset since it's coming up. So actually, what day does the podcast come out?
New Year's.
So yeah, this
Eve.
podcast comes out on New Year's Eve.
So while you're getting ready for your crazy night out or your cozy night in, I hope that you're listening to this. Let go, let God, Avita, say goodbye.
Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the iWorld. We will see you in the new year.
See you next year.